Emilia is meant to be able to avoid being hit by negative effects on her morale. I still managed to make her depressed in my solo playthrough, but that was a particularly bad situation. Welcome back to a survivor's guide to this war of mine. Today we will be looking at Emilia's mechanics and story. So Emilia's trait is talented lawyer, which means she should avoid getting sad and depressed as quickly as others. This doesn't stop it from happening, just means she's more resistant to the events that cause the changes in morale. This also impacts positive effects, so she can be hard to pull back from the brink if she does get depressed. Outside of her trait, she's addicted to coffee, has combat and guarding ranks of D, and is an egoist when it comes to her personality, meaning she isn't the best at consoling. We now move on to her story, starting with the positive one, then the trauma-filled one. Emilia's good story. Number 1. We lived in an expensive villa, with spacious bright rooms and large windows. To protect ourselves from stray bullets and splinters, we installed a double bed and a small heater in a cosy dressing room on the ground floor. We spent most of our time there, talking, listening to music, and playing games to stave off boredom. Number 2. When the banks closed, Father opened the safe box and pulled out a small chest. "Cheer up, girls," he said. "We aren't broke yet." Then he went to the marketplace and brought back fresh peaches. He kept trading jewellery for food every day. We also received humanitarian aid like everybody else, so it wasn't bad, apart from the isolation, but Father wanted us to be safe. Number 3. One day Father was unwell, so I went to the market instead. I was happy to finally be out in the open. I had the safe route memorised, so I made the trip safely. But coming back, I saw a column of smoke over our street. Our house was on fire. I couldn't get inside, the smoke was too thick. I went around the garden entrance, and there I found them. Number 4. My father and sister were shot dead. Some ragtag militiamen entered the house claiming they were looking for enemy informants. They took my father and sister to the garden and shot them. The neighbours said they didn't even bother to interrogate anyone. Instead, they had cleaned the house of anything valuable. Emilia's bad story. Number 1. We lived in a large standalone house, whose spacious bright rooms with large windows became uninhabitable due to the constant shooting and shelling. That's why we confined ourselves to one windowless dressing room on the ground floor, which could hardly fit one double bed and a small heater. We spent most of our time there, only going out to use the toilet. Number 2. Father went to the marketplace every day to barter our deceased mother's valuables for food and other necessities. He also took humanitarian aid, though it must have been humiliating for him. My sister and I hardly went out at all. He wanted us safe. Because we had long hair and no running water, we started to have problems with lice. Number 3. One day Father fell ill, so I had to go to the market. My fears proved unfounded, as nothing happened to me on the way. But when I was coming home, I saw smoke over our street. Our house was on fire. I couldn't get inside, the smoke was too thick. Dreading the worst, I started calling my father and sister. Nobody answers. Then I found them in the backyard. Number 4. My father and sister were dead. The neighbours told me the militia members entered the house claiming they were looking for Grozny informants. They interrogated and killed my family before setting fire to the house. They took everything valuable that was still there. I'm sure it was the real reason for their visit. Emilia's backstory is awful, and then she joins your survivors. Depending on how your game goes, you can get the following endings. If Emilia dies. Emilia joined the long list of casualties of this destructive conflict. The fact that she was young and well off didn't matter. War makes everyone equal. If Emilia kills herself. Broken by the horrors of war, Emilia slit her wrist. As the blood flowed from her veins, she thought about her murdered sister and father. She would see them again soon. If Emilia leaves the shelter. One night, Emilia took off, alone and unnoticed. Unlikely as it might sound, she surfaced years after the war as a corporate lawyer abroad. If you reject Emilia when she comes looking for shelter. Emilia was refused refuge in the shelter. She was very determined to survive, so she might still have made it. If Emilia gets through the war, but with bad karma. Emilia survived the war, but it has left its mark on her. She was diagnosed with PTSD. She has developed anxiety and hatred towards men. She opened her private legal office, but it hasn't been doing particularly well. If Emilia gets through the war, but is broken by the experience. After the war, Emilia wanted to forget, so she left Pogoran and went to the USA, where she joined a law firm. She makes good money. Her father would be proud. However, she's troubled by waking nightmares and has developed hatred towards men. If Emilia makes it through the war, in good spirits, and hasn't committed any atrocities. After the war, Emilia became a public prosecutor in Pogoran. She used her law expertise in trials of war criminals who were brought to justice. She has never found out who the murderers of her family were, but deep inside, she hopes they got what they deserved. So that's Emilia's story. I hope you found this video interesting, and if you did, please do like, subscribe, and consider donating to War Child. Thanks very much, and I'll see you in the next video. Ta-ra!